Welcome to the November 14th, 2014 edition of Colorado Insight Postgame, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service declaring the Gunnison Sage Grouse a threatened species this week. The announcement set off a firestorm with the community members and political leaders who have been working to establish regulations to protect the bird already. Governor Hickenlooper said the state of Colorado would file a lawsuit against the federal government regarding the declaration. Patty Calhoun from Westward. We don't get a whole lot of talk about endangered species or even threatened species around this table, but it seemed that this really set off a big community in Colorado because there were already a lot of efforts going towards protecting the Gunnison Sage Grouse. What did you think of the situation?
Well, not since the Preble's jumping mouse and what was the greenback cutthroat where we actually followed the wrong trout. It turned out it wasn't endangered. I mean, we don't talk a lot about endangered species, but interestingly, out in the rural areas, they have been, in the Western Slope, they have been spending a lot of time and attention trying to figure out how to deal with the grouse because they don't want to have the feds come in and really put in draconian regulations on what they can do. This is important for grazing rights, and they've been coming up with some pretty good plans. The Hickenlooper's administration was working closely not just with cattlemen and farmers here, but with the Western governors in general. They'd come up with some solutions, so they don't like it that the feds came in big-footed on a solution that was working. It's not unlike, today, Obama's going to protect the sage grouse. Tomorrow, it's going to be all the illegal aliens in town. So that will certainly move the conversation along pretty quickly when that happens.
David Kopel, the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Do you think there's a chance that the lawsuit that Governor Hickenlooper talks about can change the declaration, or is it kind of a fait accompli?
Good luck to him, and I hope he follows through on it, and I'm sure the Attorney General's office would do a really good job on that, but I'm not optimistic. The reason we're in this mess right now is not because the Obama administration just on its own decided to accelerate the war on rural Colorado. It's because the anti-human side of the environmental movement brought Endangered Species Act lawsuits, and the U.S. government acted because they had to under a court order. The problem is the statute itself. The Endangered Species Act is a good example of something that has great intentions, wonderful title, but if you look at its failures over the last 40 years, virtually no species that has ever been listed as endangered or threatened has gotten taken off that list. So it does a very poor job of promoting species recovery. At the same time, its structure is essentially like if in diplomacy you said, well, the ambassador's wife was insulted because she was seated 8 places away when she should have been 3 places away. Oh, violation, drop nuclear weapons. The Endangered Species Act is automatic nuclear weapons, taking everything up to the highest level of restrictions on humans in very detrimental ways. And we see in this sage grouse thing exactly how it works against people who are trying to, on a bipartisan, very broadly community-based way, do constructive things. So don't blame Obama, don't blame the courts, blame the Congress that has, after 40 years of failure of the Endangered Species Act, failed to reform it so that it will help more species and hurt fewer humans.
Eli Stokel is ace reporter with Fox 31 and CW2 anchor. How hard, even though somebody can say you can't fight City Hall, but in this case, the state has to do something in defense of the community in Gunnison. How hard do political leaders like Governor Hickenlooper and even our congressional delegation need to move on this, even if it's going to be difficult to do?
Yeah, I think Dave laid it out pretty well, a lot of the explanation for why we're at this point. I think that it is an opportunity for this brought together the governor, Udall, Bennett, Tipton, Gardner, Republicans, Democrats. I mean, every Colorado lawmaker understands what's going on out there and appreciates the efforts of that community and all the different constituencies out there to really work hard to address this in their own way, in a way that works for them and that protects this species. So I think that the frustration is real, and what you have is this community conservation effort that the government is basically saying, not good enough, and we're going to coerce you to do something. And I think the people out there, I read some quotes in the paper from people saying, we're done. We've worked really hard, and Washington doesn't recognize it. So politically, it's sort of an opportunity for, our state delegation to be responsive or to appear responsive to that community. But at the end of the day, I don't know that there is a lot a lawsuit can do. You do understand the frustration because this community has tried to protect this species as best they can, and now they're the ones who may be punished for it.
Gloria Neal, multimedia journalist, often seen on our partner CBS4. Wrap it up for us.
Well, and I don't often agree with David, but he's absolutely right. I mean, what does it do to those also who depend on, this for their livelihood? And you look at, the economic impacts, but if you think about it, they've already taken steps in the community of Gunnison to help, prevent this from happening. So the steps that they've taken, has that been given enough time to take effect? And so what will that do? So why is the government coming in now and doing what they're doing? And it really does kind of tick them off. And so I agree. I mean, it really does kind of smack in the face of what they're trying to do. And so now the government coming in, it really has, I think, aggravated a situation that, quite honestly, doesn't really need to be aggravated. And I think a lot of folks are upset about that, and rightly so.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. For everyone here at Channel 12 at cpt12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.